I never thought I'd be the kind of person to walk away from my family. For years, I tried to be the good son, the responsible one, the one who never complained, never asked for too much, never caused problems. My brother Jason was the troublemaker. My parents, Richard and Linda, always made excuses for him. It was just how things were. But the night they told me to my face that no one wanted me there, something inside me snapped. It had been a long day. I had just come back from a shift at the grocery store, exhausted, my backpack weighing heavy on my shoulders. All I wanted was to drop onto my bed and forget about the world for a while. But the second I stepped inside, I knew something was off. My bag was open. My papers were scattered across the floor. My notes, the ones I had spent hours on, were missing. Jason was sitting on the couch, controller in hand, completely absorbed in his game. He barely glanced at me when I spoke. "What the hell? Dude?" "Oh yeah," he mumbled, still looking at the screen. "Needed paper. Took some." I flipped through my notebook, my stomach sinking. Entire pages were gone. "Are you serious?" He finally turned, smirking. "Relax, man. It's just some notes. Not like you do anything important." That hit harder than it should have, because deep down, I knew that was how they all saw me. "Where are they?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He shrugged. "Dunno. Probably in the trash." I should have yelled. I should have done something. But all I did was exhale, forcing myself to stay calm. I walked past him, heading toward the kitchen when my parents walked in. They were laughing about something, a joke I wasn't a part of. But as soon as they saw me, their expressions changed. "What's with the attitude?" my dad asked, his voice sharp. "Ask him," I said, nodding toward Jason. He trashed my notes. My mom barely glanced at him. "It's just paper, Ethan," she said with a dismissive wave of her hand. "Just paper." Jason grinned. "Yeah, just paper." I looked between them, waiting, hoping for something. An ounce of disappointment. A tiny reprimand. Nothing. "Right," I muttered. "Of course." I turned to leave, but my dad's voice cut through the air like a slap. "You know, this attitude is exactly why no one wants you around." I stopped. My breath caught in my chest. I turned back slowly, searching his face, waiting for some kind of sign that he didn't mean it. But there was none. Jason leaned back, arms behind his head, still smirking. "Yeah, no one wants you here, man." And the worst part? My parents didn't argue. They didn't correct him. They just stood there, silent. Something inside me broke. I nodded, swallowing down the lump in my throat. "Okay." Then I turned and walked upstairs. I packed my things, clothes, laptop, the little money I had saved. They didn't stop me. They didn't even ask where I was going. I left without another word, and they didn't care. Ahrum. That night I crashed at my friend Marcus's place. He didn't ask questions, didn't push, just handed me a blanket and said, "You can stay as long as you need." More kindness in one sentence than my own family had ever given me. When I woke up the next morning, my phone was flooded with missed calls. 12 of them. Mom, Dad, Jason. For a family that supposedly didn't want me, they sure were desperate to talk now. I ignored the calls. Then the texts started coming in. Mom, you're being immature. Come home. Dad, enough with this crap. Stop acting like a child. Jason, dude, seriously? I almost laughed. Then a new message popped up. Mom, come home now. We have a problem. I frowned. I considered ignoring it. But curiosity got the better of me. Me. What happened? Her reply came almost immediately. Mom, your brother was arrested. I stared at the screen. Then I smiled. When I pulled up to the house, my dad was pacing on the porch, his face tight with frustration. My mom sat on the steps, head in her hands. They looked up when they saw me. I took my time walking up. So, I said casually, who wants to tell me what happened? Where the hell have you been? My dad snapped. Not here, I said, smirking. Like you wanted. His jaw tightened. My mom stood up, her voice shaking. It's your brother, she said. He stole from the wrong people. Some guys at the arcade. They called the cops. He's in holding right now. I almost laughed. After years of treating me like garbage, believing he was untouchable, Jason was finally facing consequences. And they expected me to fix it. We need money for a lawyer, my mom said. For bail. Please, Ethan, we need your help. I stared at her. They didn't need me. They needed my money. Let me get this straight, I said. You ignored me for years, told me I wasn't wanted. Jason treated me like trash, and you let him. But now that he's in trouble, I suddenly matter. This isn't about that. My dad growled, this is about family. I laughed. Oh, now we're family? Please, Ethan, my mom begged. We'll pay you back. I took a step back. You think I trust you? She didn't answer. I sighed, pretending to think about it. And how much money are we talking about? 10,000, my dad said. We can pay some, but we need you to cover the rest. I whistled. 10 grand, huh? Sounds serious. My mom's eyes lit up. So you'll do it? Oh, absolutely not. Their faces dropped so fast I almost felt bad. Almost. Excuse me? My dad snapped. I shrugged. Not my problem. But, my mom sputtered, he's your brother. I shook my head. No, he's your son. And you made it very clear that I was never part of this family. My dad stepped forward, his voice low with anger. You think this is funny? No, I said, smirking. I think it's fair. Mom grabbed my arm, desperate. We'll pay you back, I swear. I pulled away. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to figure this out without me, just like you always wanted. I turned and walked away. Don't you dare walk away from us, my dad shouted. I glanced over my shoulder. You already did it first. Then I got in my car and drove away, leaving them in the mess they created. Later that night, I got a text from Jason. Bro, are you really going to let me rot in here? I smiled. Me. You said no one wanted me around. I'm just respecting your wishes. Then I blocked his number, and for the first time in my life, I felt free. So a week passed, and my phone stayed silent. I had expected more messages, more desperate attempts from my parents, but after I ignored them, they seemed to accept it, or so I thought. Then one evening, Marcus and I were watching TV when my phone buzzed. Mom, please, we don't know what to do. I stared at the message, chewing on the inside of my cheek. Me, figure it out. Mom, Ethan, please. We were wrong. We should have treated you better. We see that now. I almost laughed. So it took Jason getting arrested for them to finally see me? I let them wait for an hour before responding. Me. Prove it. Mom. How? Me. Public apology. Family group chat. Full accountability. I wanted them to say it, to admit everything they had done. I didn't expect them to actually do it. But then the next morning, my phone lit up with a message in the family chat. Dad, we need to address how we treated Ethan. We made mistakes, and we regret the way we pushed him away. We should have valued him more, and we hope he can forgive us. Forced, stiff, humiliating. Perfect. I sent a simple thumbs up emoji. Mom, does this mean you'll help? Me, absolutely not. Jason stayed in jail. For weeks, my parents tried to scrape together the bail money, selling things off, borrowing from relatives. But no one wanted to hand them 10 grand for a kid who had been nothing but trouble. Meanwhile, I was thriving. I moved into a new apartment, nothing fancy, but it was mine. No one taking my things, no one telling me I was worthless. One night, as I was settling in, my phone rang. Unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. Silence on the other end. Then a voice I hadn't heard in weeks. Jason. Bro, you really just left me here. I leaned back, smirking. Yep. His voice sharpened. I thought you were better than this. Better than what? Letting you deal with the consequences of your own actions? He scoffed. You think this is funny? Actually, yeah. His breathing grew heavy. You're a selfish piece of shit. Funny, I said. That's what you always called me when you took my stuff, when you treated me like dirt. But now suddenly I matter to you? More silence. I could almost hear his pride cracking. Listen, he muttered. I know I messed up. Finally, but, he continued, you made your point. Can we just fix this? I took a deep breath, letting the weight of his words settle. And then calmly I said, enjoy your stay, and hung up. I never heard from him again. My parents stopped trying after that. I saw on social media that they eventually got him out, probably took loans or made some desperate deal, but things weren't the same for them. They lost their house 6 months later. I don't know where they moved, and I don't care. As for me, I built a life, a good one. I surrounded myself with people who actually cared. I chased dreams I never thought I could. And every time I looked at my phone, remembering the desperate texts, the panic in their voices, I smiled because, in the end, I didn't need revenge. I just needed to walk away. And that was enough. I sat on my balcony, the city lights stretching out before me, a quiet hum filling the night. The air was crisp, carrying a sense of peace I had never known in my old life. My phone sat on the table beside me, dark and silent. It had been weeks since the last desperate message from my parents. They had given up. Jason was out of jail. Somehow, they had scraped together the money, but it had cost them. Their house was gone, their finances wrecked. They were struggling, and for the first time in their lives, I wasn't their safety net. I should have felt triumphant. Maybe a part of me did, but mostly I felt free. For years, I had begged for their love, their validation. I had twisted myself into someone they might finally care about. But now, sitting here, away from their toxicity, I realized something. I never needed their love. I just needed to love myself. The scars they left would always be there, but they no longer defined me. They, however, were still trapped in the cycle they had created. Jason was still a screw-up. My parents were still making excuses, still blaming the world for their problems. Nothing had changed for them, but for me, everything had. I took a deep breath, letting it all sink in. The past no longer held me. The future was mine. But I have to ask, if you were in my position, would you have done the same? Would you have walked away, or would you have helped them despite everything? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. More shocking real-life stories are coming your way.